so for me, your product portfolio is key. You can't even if you have a fantastic compensation plan paying out I don't know how much percent, but if you can't sell the product, then it's not going to generate anything. So for
You don't
me,
have a business.
Product is number one. Yeah.
Koen, thank you very much for joining me. Really a great pleasure. Yeah, it's a great pleasure to have you. I'm so excited about this meeting. I've been looking very forward to it. And at least we have electricity today. In South Africa, we're landing up at the moment. We're having between 8 and 10 hours of power outages. So it's absolutely crazy.
Wow.
So we've got electricity.
It's difficult to run a business.
You have absolutely no idea. It's insane. Insane. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just to kick off, if you can just give us a short background of what you do and what you're involved with in the industry. And then I'd like to get all of your contact details out of the way right up front, so that if anybody in your area wants to get hold of you, or from anywhere in the world who's launching in your area wants to get hold of you, they can. So how did you get into the industry? How did you get going?
Well, that's a long story. Actually, after my graduation as a biotechnology engineer, I decided not to apply for a job and do a world tour for a year, and then start scanning the market. And so my country of choice as a first country was Indonesia, because I had some relatives there. And so off I went with a backpack and a lot of courage. And actually, I never came to the second country, and so 40 years later, I'm still here. and very soon after, actually, I arrived in Indonesia. I met a Swedish guy who was about to set up Oriflame Cosmetics in Indonesia. At that time, Oriflame was having a party plan organization in Europe, and they had heard of multi-level marketing, but they weren't sure what it was all about. But they looked at the success of Amway, and they said, well, if there must be something in that is right. So they decided to try it out in Indonesia. They said it's far enough from our business in Europe. So if it doesn't work, it does not impact our business in Europe. And so they gave it a try. And actually, at the end, Oriflame Indonesia became actually the trial ground sort of for the international expansion outside of Europe. And then later on, globally, Oriflame switched entirely to a multi-level marketing plan, away from the party plan. So I was hired as a sales trainer, and then very quickly became actually the general manager. This was basically a startup with very little support from Europe, because it was totally different system. And so 13 years later, I was hijacked by Amway. And so I led Amway Indonesia for 17 years, and actually I retired from Amway in December 2017. And so during my sort of 30 years plus career in the direct selling, I have always been involved in the Direct Selling Association since 1987. And since 1988, basically, I've always been the vice chairman in handling different aspects of the association's function. The chairman had to be Indonesian national. So throughout the years, I've seen the evolution of the direct selling industry from the early 80s, when really Oriflame was a pioneer in multi-level marketing in Indonesia. And in direct selling wise, in the early 80s, it was only Avon that was present in the market, and World Book. Sorry, I would forget them.
Ah,
World Book
yes.
and then Avon. Those were the two direct selling companies. So Oriflame joined the association when there were only like three or four members, and yeah, so I have had a very intense involvement in the Indonesian Direct Selling Association up to now. At the moment, I'm in the supervisory board. Um, yeah, um, that's a
So,
little
so
bit
you've
my history.
so you have been involved in a ground up startup to a very successful international multi-level marketing play. So you understand how to build these businesses from the very first person upwards. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We when we started with Oriflame, we had 6 employees, including the security guy, and our staircase was functioning as a warehouse. We had no computers, everything by hand. I personally did the bonus calculations by hand. It took me a week to finish, and
Whoa.
I can't remember how many pages. But then there were no computers yet. I mean, that's wrong. But um, after 2 years, we only got our first computer, and I had to share it with the accountant. And then we wrote a program in Lotus, for heaven's sake, Lotus 123,
I
to
remember it well,
calculate the
yeah.
bonuses. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've yeah, from point zero basically built it up, and with very little support from head office, because for them it was also totally new. Oriflame had a party plan, so they didn't. I mean, the mechanics of multi-level marketing are totally different. So a lot of trial and error, but at the end, yeah,
Very
successful.
successful. And so, what are you doing now in the industry? What is your sort of main? I know that you retired from Amway, but you're still heavily involved in the industry at the moment. What are you
Yeah,
doing
yeah. So I'm
currently?
I'm on the I'm on the supervisory board of the Direct Selling Association, and I run my own direct selling advisory company. It's called ITSA, Indonesia Direct Selling Advisory. Trying to help where help is needed or where help is wanted. So it's a wide. I can offer a wide range of services, but everything in under the umbrella of direct selling. I have a group of people that I can draw on. That it goes from product registration at the Indonesian FDA, tax calculations for distributors, company tax, because the direct selling industry has been able to obtain some special tax treatments, um, very beneficial to the distributors. Um, yeah, product portfolio, compensation plans, a little bit of everything, because throughout my career with Oriflame and Amway I have been exposed to pro, most likely all the different aspects of the direct selling.
Industry.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. 100%. So if somebody was, if a company, let's say a US based company, was thinking of going into Indonesia, I mean, we know that going into a new country, you never know what you don't know. And it can be an absolute minefield if you don't have the right people in play to help you. Would a person who, like, let's say a CEO of a big US company, they want to come into Indonesia, you would be the contact person who would help them to get set up there, make sure that they've got all of their ducks in a row, that they're not falling foul of any of the laws in the country, etc. That would be a
Yeah, yeah,
typical.
yeah, yeah, indeed.
Um,
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I do legal stuff. That's what I did with Amway and Oriflame. Incorporation. Yeah, the whole from A to
so
Z,
compliance,
A
all
to
of
Z.
that kind of thing.
Compliance. Yeah, the whole. It's
Okay,
not
so
only
what I'm going to do right
the
now.
corporate compliance. Sorry, it's not only corporate compliance, but it's also. I mean, the product has sort of like a regulatory environment of its own. Then the direct selling part, special license. So there's a lot of compliance work that has to be done.
Well, that's perfect. So, what I'm going to ask you to do right now, we're going to do it at the end, and I'll also put it in a link in the underneath this podcast. But if you could just give us your URL where people can find your website, and your contact details, your email address, etc. Let's just get that out the way now, because I can assure you there are people who are watching this who are going to be thinking, okay, how do I get hold of this, of Koen? And so, if you could just give us that quickly.
Yeah. So my email address is my name K Verheyen. So it's Kilo Victor Echo Romeo Hotel Echo Yankee Echo November dot itza India Delta Sierra Alpha at gmail.com. And my mobile number is 62 for Indonesia, and then 816 968764.
Fantastic. So it's plus 62 816 8764. And your URL
Yes.
for your website, what is your website address?
So www.itsa India Delta Sierra Alpha .org.id.
ID. Okay. So if anybody wants to contact you, that's how they would get a hold of you. And obviously, feel free to call you as when they need you.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
you're in Indonesia. What is your time zone there?
Is Central European time +6.
Okay. Fantastic. So they mustn't phone you at 2:00 in the morning.
Well, if I'm awake on a call with on the other side of the world, I can take the call.
Oh, wow. Okay, excellent. Okay, so that's fantastic. So, what I'd like to do is just touch on some of the core parts of our industry and just get your feedback on how you see it working. And what I want to start with, because a lot of people seem to think that the product is just an afterthought. How important is
Oh,
having a really good product in our industry?
for me is key. Is number one. Because we are a direct selling company. We're selling to consumers, so we got to have the best possible product at the best possible price. So for me, your product portfolio is key. You can't even if you have a fantastic compensation plan paying out I don't know how much percent, but if you can't sell the product, then it's not going to generate anything. So for
You don't
me,
have a
product
business.
is product is number one. Yeah.
Yeah, and attached to that, when you've got a really great product, I presume that training is going to be absolutely essential to make sure that the network understands perfectly what the product does and how it does it so that they can build up real belief.
Yeah, I think as is with every sort of sales process, you got to you got to know your product. But I think the additional advantage of selling a product through direct selling is that most of the products are being used by the seller. Different from sort of the traditional retail. So the people in the shop, they sell products they have no clue about it. They don't use it. They have no passion about it. Um, so I think that is a key difference. Of course, the distributor cannot use all the products. I mean, in theory it could, but they'll probably focus on the products that they use themselves, and maybe a few others. But yeah, product knowledge is definitely a key element towards success.
Because what we've actually discovered over the years, Koen, is that many companies come to us and the product that they've got is not particularly fantastic. It's not particularly unique. And they say to me, listen, it's all about the commissions. People will sell anything if they can earn money. And I normally say to them, yes, they will sell anything if they can earn money. But if you want a business that is going to last a long time, that's going to be around in 10, 20, 30 years' time, your product is everything. If you don't have a
Yeah.
fantastic product, your business won't last. You'll have a bell curve. It'll rise quickly, everybody trying to get in on the action, and then it'll disappear just as quickly. I mean, would you agree with
Yeah.
that?
Indeed. Yeah. No. Definitely. And I can I can validate that actually with Amway we did a global survey. I mean, not I mean an analysis of 40,000 plus distributors, and we grouped them in we grouped them in two groups. One group was distributors that joined Amway because of the business opportunity, and another group that joined because of the product. And what we saw is that um, the people that joined because of the business actually they had a much higher level of non-renewal. They left the business very quickly. And on the other side, the people that joined because of the product actually they became more successful. They stayed longer, and at the end they earned more money than the ones that joined for the business.
Isn't that
So
incredible?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and this is not a small study. I mean, it comprised 40,000 plus distributors. So I think there's some value to that conclusion. I think
And the,
I think I'd like to sort of see what could be the reason for that, and I think overall the product delivers on its promises, whereas the compensation plan not always deliver on the promises. I mean, it's not that the market or the compensation plan doesn't work, but people go in there with the expectations of earning so much and so much in a very short time, and most of the time that doesn't happen. But when a product claim it does this, it is felt in a very the product proves itself within a relatively very short period. So it builds belief and trust in the product, whereas those that joined for the compensation not always achieve what they expected to achieve, and
100%. And I mean,
hence leave the business.
Amway in particular has got some just epic products. I've had a look at their products and they've just got some wonderful products. And if you talk about their story, I mean, some of their products, the Nutrilite products, are just
Yeah.
phenomenal. When you have a look at how those things are manufactured and farmed, etc., it's just an unbelievable story. So anybody who's got a product and who wants to see how that product should be structured and how it should be advertised, having a look at the Amway Nutrilite product range is a fantastic place to start, because it's
Yeah.
truly
I mean,
one of the great examples.
no, and it's reflected in the sales composition. The Nutrilite is more than 50% of the global turnover. So
Well, it
it's
doesn't
yeah
surprise me.
it's
It doesn't
yeah
surprise me. When I got the first time that I saw the story of Nutrilite, I was completely and utterly sold, and I became a user of the product. Even though I wasn't a member of of Amway, I obviously purchased the product for my own consumption as a pure customer. And I mean, we've
yeah
subsequently bought things like we own an eSpring, and one of the best water purifiers in the
yeah
world.
yeah.
And the thing is, I'll tell anybody who I speak to, I'm not even a member there, I'll tell anybody I speak to about how phenomenal those products are. And I think
Yeah,
that's a key issue. The other thing I've
yeah,
discovered, and I'm sure you've found the same thing, is that somebody who's become a distributor based on the product, even if they leave the business, they remain a loyal customer.
oh yeah, they're. I mean, they're not all brand ambassadors, but you find a lot of brand ambassadors that actually have left the business and have become a regular customer or loyal customer, passionate customer, ambassador even. Um,
Exactly.
and that is why the product is so important.
Yeah, and
And a lot of people think that because you're selling it through the direct sales channel, your marketing effort is much less. It's totally not true. I mean, it's equally, or even if not more, attention to marketing has to be paid. The product is still not going to sell itself. I mean, you have the people that are doing the sales process, the sales effort, but they you got to give them the tools. One of them is of course the training. Training is therefore for me is part of marketing, but then the whole communication around the product, the whole visualization around the product, it has the same function as in the traditional retail, with the added benefit that you have a person talking about the product in a totally passionate way.
Yeah, and that's what makes the difference, isn't it? And do you do any
That's the
marketing
difference.
outside of the network? Do you do, for example, would you do marketing via television or radio or newspapers or anything? Does the company do that kind of thing?
No, they do some. They did some advertisement. Let's say about 10 years ago, but in the visual places, in airports where you have a lot of traffic. But they have gone away from that. They have come to the conclusion that actually the distributors are the best advertisers. But you got to give them the materials. You got to give them the tools to actually execute that marketing function, that branding function.
Well, that's, I mean, my experience with Amway was the distributor came to my home to talk to me about Nutrilite because I was interested in supplementation. And he brought a DVD back in the day. It was still when DVDs were around. And he popped a DVD in, and there was this most amazing DVD of how the farms were worked, how they owned all the farms around their farm, how they used spiders instead of chemicals. I mean, it was just this incredible video. And within, I was smitten. And so that is the tools you're talking about, having videos or YouTube videos or whatever that really highlight the product's
Yeah,
abilities and
indeed.
capabilities, etc.
Yeah. And now you I mean you mentioned it used to be a video recorder. Now with social media, I mean it has become so easy, but but it, but very important.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing on my list would be the compensation plan, and we've designing a compensation plan. So I want to see if you agree with me. I say to my clients, listen, the most money you will ever spend is on your compensation plan. It's the most expensive decision you make. And if you get it wrong, you can't change it. Because if you change the compensation plan, you lose your business. The people just leave in
Hmm.
droves. And so I say to my clients, look, you need to get a professional, a specialist to build your compensation plan. You can't go out and copy somebody else's plan because every plan is unique to your offering, to your products, to what you're trying to achieve. I mean, would you agree with that?
Indeed. Yeah, totally. There's many compensation plans templates. I would say uh, uh, available. You got to choose the one that actually is aligned with your product portfolio and aligned with actually the distributor behavior that you are seeking to achieve. These must all be aligned. So you can, for instance, if your product is a lipstick, let's say you only sell lipstick, and another company sells a water treatment system. Clearly, the character of the product requires a different compensation plan. The effort that goes into selling a lipstick and effort goes into selling a treatment water treatment system is totally different. Lipstick, you can go back in 2 months time and sell another one because it's finished, and the water treatment system is there forever. So just as an example that you can't, one compensation plan does not fit all. So it has to be adjusted to your mainly to your product portfolio. It has to support the product portfolio, and the product portfolio has to support the compensation plan.
So when you're designing a compensation plan, what is your strategy? How do you go about designing a comp plan for a company?
First of all, understanding the product portfolio. What is it that they have in the product portfolio? Do they only have one product? Is that a highly consumable product, or is that a durable product? Those so an analysis of the product portfolio is for me key to the design of the compensation plan.
Okay, and then so now once you've established that, is the next step something like what kind of behavior are we looking to drive?
Yeah, that will come out as a result of the compensation plan. So that is a little bit back and forth, not really trial and error, but the compensation plan will drive behavior. So if it's aligned with the product portfolio, then hence you probably have that will be able to drive the right behavior.
And I'd speak to a lot of my clients about the fact that if you cannot make money selling the product without recruiting anybody, you don't have a business. So when we design compensation plans, we focus quite heavily on what your the retail commission component is. If I sell to a customer, how much do I make? If I sell a lot of product, do I make more, etc.? Is that a similar kind of approach that you take?
It depends a little bit on the market. In Asia, the e-commerce on e-commerce marketplace is very, very popular. So it is very difficult actually to sell a product at retail price, because the same product is already available on the marketplace at a reduced price. So the retail profit is something very difficult to achieve. So you got to find another way to actually incorporate that into the total compensation plan.
And how do you do that?
I, I mean, again, depending on your product, you can have cashbacks, you can have earnings on first level, and your first level probably are your consumers. There's different ways, Richard. Is actually the possibilities actually are endless. Um,
So
Again,
you would sit down
I
with a
come
client and
back
you would
to
actually, sorry, yeah?
yeah,
Didn't mean to
no,
cut you off.
sit down and look at the product portfolio. That is, do they have highly consumables that are fast turnaround? Do they have also high priced tickets, durable? Then that will allow them to reach higher levels with only one sale. So it's you got to have a combination of different types of products in your portfolio that have um, different functional contributions towards the entire compensation mechanism.
So these two issues, your product and your compensation plan, those are probably your main drivers in the business. Fantastic
Those are, yeah.
product. Okay, but now I
Yes, the
know, for example, Amway.
unique, yeah, highly demonstratable, high quality, not necessarily. I mean, you got to have a big basket of consumable products, because that is your what I would call your basket filler. Uh, at the middle of the month, you got to be able to already reach a, a big enough volume from your basket fillers, and then towards the end of the month you'll throw in a qualifier, I call it, to just reach the next level of your volume. Um, yeah, again, it's the compensation plan has to be designed according to the product portfolio. And we can there is I looked at the compensation plans over the years, and in the early years, let's say the 50s and the 60s, there was a lot of emphasis on personal effort. And like that's why Avon and Tupperware were so successful. This is the personal sales effort. The compensation plan was all about that. And then through the 80s, then more emphasis on recruitment, on building a network. And then in the 90s, that went to the extreme, and it was like almost everything was about building a network, and the retailing part was sort of put to the back burner, and it was always how can we reward people for bringing in other people into the business, and then a little bit extreme. And then you see another turnaround during the 2000, and here is back to kind of a balance between retailing and network building.
Yeah. Obviously, that's the magic, because if you can get that balance, because if you don't sell the products, you don't make money. But if you don't recruit
Yeah.
the people, you don't get growth. So you've actually got to have that balance between selling the product and recruiting the people in order to get both sales, which generate the income, and growth, which is done through the bringing on of new people.
Yes, yes, but the personal effort with the customers needs to generate an income, because building a network is gonna take time. So if you
Yes.
have to rely on building a network to actually earn some money, I think a lot of people will just walk away after a while, because it takes too long time to build a network. But making a sale, that's very instant, and you should be able to enjoy the reward of that process. So a good balance between sales effort and building network. So building is for the long term. Selling actually is for short term profits.
100%. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is the company. We call it the social side, but it's basically the culture of your company, how you engage with your people, how you create a culture that is pervasive from the top down right through the network. How important is the culture that you cultivate within your network?
I think the network is going to draw inspiration around the values of the founders of the company, and then use those values to actually create their own culture in their group. Um, I think the company's culture is more towards the employees, and of course that should also be a reflection of the values of the founders. Um, the the company staff is there to support the leaders and to support the distributors, and care about the distributors, and the distributors are going to take the values of the founders and build their own culture. They have their own identity. A lot of them have the identity equal ego. But
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
yeah, but that is what makes them successful. I mean, if you don't have some level of ego, probably very difficult to move forward. I mean, but you shouldn't. It should not go to the extreme that it's all about ego. That also doesn't last very long. Again, a good balance. But for me, there's one. For me, I say that your distributors don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly. And I mean, I just want to put a warning out here, and again, just see if you agree with me. We've had a couple of CEOs of companies who have never run MLM businesses before. And then they try and treat their network and their leaders as if they're employees. And you
No,
actually can't do
yeah,
that. It's a
you cannot.
disaster.
I
You've
mean,
got
there
no
are,
leverage over them.
yes,
Oh, sorry.
yes, exactly. So it's all about it's yeah, indeed. You don't. They're entrepreneurs. They're independent business people. Treat them like business people. Um, yeah, it's I cannot imagine a company being successful that treats the distributors like their employees. Doesn't work. You
Well, I've
got to
been in
build a
meetings.
relation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've been in meetings with companies where the CEO has been saying, "Well, these guys are not doing their work. We need to force them to do their work, and if they don't, we just kick them out." And I mean, that kind of attitude is not the way to go, because these
Yeah,
people are basically volunteering to be part of your organization. You have got zero hold on them whatsoever, and if you don't treat them with love, and you mentioned it, they want to know how much you care. And
yeah,
an employee, you can say, listen, you're earning the money. I'm paying you that money. Now you do what I'm telling you. With your distributors, you cannot do that because they just leave. And there's a
yeah.
thousand other companies looking for them. Sorry. Yep.
Indeed, no. It's they are independent people. They're business people. That you also it's not exactly the same, but your suppliers, you don't treat them like employees either. I mean, you build a relationship with your suppliers the same way
100%.
you build relationship with your distributors. It's the same in the traditional retail. It's all about relationships between the manufacturer, the principal, and the retailers or the wholesalers. You can't just tell them what to do. You got to give them a purpose, so they will do what you actually want them to do. It's all about leadership, real
100%.
leadership, not management by fear, or it's real leadership where they actually want to follow your suggestion, your not follow what you tell them to do, and that's never going to work.
Exactly. And I've seen it over and over again. And because company owners are used to dealing with staff, it takes them a long time to actually get their head around how to treat their distributors. It's a completely, totally different animal.
Yeah, I agree. People, I
And
mean, companies that want to actually add an additional sales channel through the direct sales, actually they should separate the whole organization. I mean, you can have in the back office can be the same, but your sales organization, if I may use that word, you got to be totally separated. And actually in Indonesia, you can't sell the same product through the traditional channel and direct selling channel.
it's not legal.
You got to choose. Yes, it's a legal requirement that you have to choose. You either sell it through the direct selling channel or the traditional channel.
Well, I've got a story about this. There was a company in South Africa who had a very, very successful MLM business. They had over 30,000 agents, active agents, and they were doing millions of dollars a month. They were just absolutely caning it. And then they decided they're going to also supply their products through the retail outlets. And they thought that that would work for them. Well, they went from 30,000 agents down to 3,000 agents. Their products didn't sell
Mm.
in retail, so they were taken off the retail shelves, and they've never ever recovered from that. So it's not only, I
Yeah,
mean, in Indonesia it's illegal, but it's stupid to do something like that as well.
yeah. Actually, the distributors will see this as you are competing directly with them for basically the same customer. And and you have all the facilities. You're a corporation versus an individual distributor. They're gonna see. I mean, you're breaking the trust. You are competing directly. Yeah, I'm not surprised that they lost all the distributors, and when they restarted, they won't come back because they've lost the trust.
Exactly. And that goes back to that key word that you used, which is care. If you care for the
Yeah,
people that you're working with, you would never do such a thing.
indeed.
Indeed. So it's a
Direct selling is so much a people's business more than anything else.
exactly. I agree with you. Now, one of the things I know that Amway did unbelievably well, because I watched them, okay, from the outside, but incentives, they have the most epic incentives. You know, you can win trips to all over the world. And I noticed that that drove the top competitive people very, very hard. So people who were doing no sales during the year, suddenly there was an incentive and they were shooting the lights out with their sales. So how important are incentives, do you think?
Well, incentives have their role, and that is to actually push the leaders beyond sort of what is provided in the compensation plan. Um, one has to be careful though that the incentive the incentive does not become the major objective, and then drive behavior solely driven by achieving the incentives, and disregarding sort of the natural or the acceptable behaviors. For instance, if the design of your incentive requires people to have personal sales that is like, I don't know, let's say 10 times more than what is required in your compensation plan, then you would then the people that really go after that incentive, they buy so much to achieve that incentive, it overshoots their ability to sell. They have to flood the market with products at discounted price, and you have an entire disruption of the market, and that is done by just a few people, the people uh, that try to go and have the financial means, but it destroys the market for so many other people. So the design of your incentive really has to be thought through.
And
It's
it's got to
again
be in
it,
line.
it
I
you
presume it's got to be in line
it's
with your compensation
yes,
plan.
yes, it has to be an extension of your compensation plan. um, but again, you got to think through first, what is the behavior that you want to reward. um, and I think in Amway they have done a good job. Um, it really is an extension of the compensation plan, but they call it an incentive, so they can change it whenever they want to, if it's part of the core plan. I mean, in Amway, the philosophy is we never take away anything from the distributors. If we make a change in the core compensation plan, it is something that we add.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's the only
incentives
way to
over
keep the
time,
distributors.
yeah, over time we can change the incentives, but the core plan we don't touch, or at least we don't reduce. We add if we make a
100%.
change. Yeah.
Now, incentives. Do you find that like international travel is a good incentive, or what are the best kinds of incentives that you've seen out there?
It depends a little bit on the market. I mean, in in the Indonesians in general, say the average Indonesian, they don't have much opportunity to travel. So for these people, it is it's considered an incentive. But if you look at the sort of the upper class people in Indonesia, they may participate in the direct selling because of the product, but travel is not an incentive for them. It's they do it every week. I mean, basically. So you got to look at who are my distributors, where am I? I mean, in Indonesia, yeah. Who is my who's my audience, basically, and what's my compensation plan? In Amway we have paid more attention on the recognition part. We used to do recognition one fits for all, but now we tailor made the recognition for the distributor that is getting the recognition, and that has been very successful. Um, the travel incentive hasn't changed much, except that now we have like a menu, a menu of destinations that the countries can choose from. So we achieve economies of scale by going to the same hotel but at different times, different groups. So that that the management of the incentives now at Amway is more geared towards how can we achieve economy of scale,
Because
and
they
of
take
course
a lot of people.
keep the excitement. Yeah, but again, incentives for Amway is the biggest expense account.
Yeah, it's huge. Because what it takes,
It's
it
huge.
takes thousands of dollars to fly somebody to even if they came to somewhere like Indonesia, which is a fairly inexpensive destination, you're still staying in very expensive hotels. It's feeding them, it's catching the flights there, flights back. You know, you're looking at thousands of dollars per couple to take people on these incentives.
Yeah, yeah, indeed.
I wanted to ask you, with these travel incentives, do you allow the partners to come along? So if I, for example, won the incentive, would there be an opportunity for me to bring my partner along, or do you ban the partners from coming? What are the advantages and disadvantages of that?
Well, it depends from company to company, but in Amway, the distributors are always couples, or it's always husband and wife. It used to be just could be partners, but now it is husband and wife. So the incentive is also for husband and wife. I mean partners. Let me call it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Amway, you travel together, you work together, you travel together, you enjoy together.
And you find that works really well. I mean, especially for
It's
somebody who's in it on
yes.
their own. Because we did a big event, a destination incentive, and we had mostly women in our team. And when we went away, they brought their husbands with them. But what we found is the husbands would take the wives off and they would be away from the group. And so we had no sort of time to build the team, build the group. We found that was quite disruptive. But I'm not sure that it would have been better to not have the husbands along, because then the wives were obviously been worrying about their partners.
Well, I think it depends a little bit on how you set the rules. If you are transparent and clear about the rules up front, then there shouldn't be surprises. And if there are behaviors that deviate from what was agreed upon, then you got to take action. You got to.
I see what you mean.
But
100%.
we don't have any issues with that at Amway. I'm sure in most of the other companies it is similar. Um,
I hear
yeah,
you.
the Amway business is a family business. It started it's founded by family, two friends, family. It's I mean family is one of the four founding values of the company. So it is very strong. Even at the lowest sort of the lowest level incentive, it's always couples.
Wonderful. Okay, I love
And
that.
we have seen that actually. Sorry, where one of the partners in the distributorship is really not supportive, or couldn't care much, or it's only the wife that is doing the business. By participating in these events, in these trips, actually they come to appreciate what the spouse has been doing, and they see the recognition, and they in many cases they have turned around and say, wow, and I'm going to support this now. I'm going to become involved. I'm going to actively participate.
So that is actually key. Now, you mentioned recognition just now, and Can you just dive a bit deeper into recognition? How do you recognize people? What are the things that you would recognize them for doing?
Actually, there is no limit to recognition. Um, as long for me, what is important is that you recognize something that was announced uh, prior, so people can decide whether they want to achieve this or not. It's totally useless to give rewards after people have done something but they didn't know why they were doing it, and you suddenly give them a reward. That is a total waste of effort and money. So it's got to have a purpose. Again, drive behavior. Of course, it goes without saying that all the levels in the compensation plan gets rewarded. But I think more importantly is how you do the recognition. Um, it's got to be very personal. Now these days with social media, you have the added value that it can become very quickly. They achieve something at the end of the day, and in the evening it's already on social media. You couldn't do that before. You had to wait for the right opportunity to do an event. And these days with social media, that whole recognition uh, process has become very fast, very tailor made, customized, um, but very important. So I don't know how much deeper you would like me to go. It's very I would call it custom made. Um,
Well, I have an example. For example, at Amway, I went to one of their big conventions, and there was 12,000 people in the auditorium. So it's a big convention. Jim Dornan was there. There was a couple of heavyweights there, and from the stage they said, "Okay, we want to know who in the last 3 months has signed up 2 people in any single month." And everybody knew that if you signed 2 people up in a month, you were a pace setter. So they wanted everybody who's a pace setter, please stand up. All the pace setters stand up. Please, will you walk down to the stage, and will you walk across the stage? And everybody else, I want you to give them a round of applause. So these people all walked down to the front of the stage. They walked across the stage. The whole 12,000 people were cheering and clapping. And I thought, wow, this is an amazing recognition because it costs the company nothing. They don't have to track anything. They just ask, who's done 2 people in any month? And if you put up your hand, then they accept that you've done it, and they give you that recognition by letting you walk across the stage. And I thought that was quite an amazing way to give recognition. It's inexpensive, but how many people have ever had that many 12,000 people cheering from them? It happens never in
yeah,
your
yeah,
life. And then they
yeah.
said
That's what I
anybody who
said.
signed yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And then they said anybody who signed up 6 people, you're a triple pace
Yeah.
setter. Please walk down the front. And then they got everybody to stand up and give them a standing ovation. You've never seen smiles like that in your life on those people who were walking across the stage. They were getting a standing ovation. Again, who gets a standing ovation? Cost the company nothing. So I just thought that kind of
Indeed.
recognition is very powerful.
Yeah, that's why I said in the beginning, you can actually recognize any kind of quote unquote performance, similar to how you would recognize your employees. There are companies that don't recognize their employees at all, and there's other companies that recognize for whatever they do. It's recognized. So I think you got to look for every opportunity to recognize. However, you got to be careful that that recognition doesn't become something that is of no value, like when it's dreading on, or it actually has no purpose. Or so recognizing for the sake of recognizing. I think it should always be sincere. It's got to be with purpose. um yeah, that's what I would say about the recognition.
And there was, I mean, we did something with my company, Acorn Kids, which worked really well. So if somebody signed up, let's say I signed you up, the system would send you an SMS saying, "Welcome to the team." It would send me an SMS saying, "Congratulations for signing up, Koen." It would send my upline an SMS saying, "Hey, Richard just recruited Koen. Why don't you give Richard a call and tell him well done? And why don't you give Koen a call and say welcome to the team?" I would only go
Yeah,
up 2 or 3 levels, but suddenly you would get 3 calls from people up the line to say welcome to the team. I would get 2 calls, one from my upline and one from my leader, to say, "Hey, well done for signing up, Koen." And so I
yeah,
was recognized for just signing that one person up. And again, all it cost the company 3 or 4 SMSs to highlight the fact that Richard had done something. So there's
yeah,
ways of making this recognition very automated and also network driven.
yeah, yeah. Personalized, speed. Yeah, I mean, you said it all. But you can put in a lot of creativity there as well, which then makes it even more uh, valuable or personal.
Yeah. So Koen, now obviously as we come into land, I mean this has been an amazing interview. I've loved every minute of it. When somebody comes to you and they're wanting to launch an MLM business in your region, you would provide them with an end-to-end solution. You could help them design their incentives. You could help them design their recognition programs. You could help them design their compensation plan, get their products authorized, make sure that they're in compliance in all of the different areas. That is basically what um, your
Yeah,
company does. It's an
indeed.
end-to-end
Yes.
solution.
Yeah. One stop service. The
And do
first
you deal
question, though,
out?
I'm gonna sorry, the first
Yeah, you
question
go.
that I'm going to ask these and anyone that would like to come up and come to Indonesia, why you wanna do if they're already not in direct selling, eh? Is why they wanna do direct selling? They got to it's got to be for the right reasons. Um, similar to what compensation plan see these days in the let's say in the last 10 years in Indonesia, most of the new companies that uh, that are born within Indonesia, so they're not affiliated with any other company overseas. They use a binary compensation plan, and I was I was in I mean I was engaged with the Ministry of Trade in the validation process for companies that apply for a direct selling license. So we verify their compensation plan, we verify their code of ethics, and we see whether it is in compliance with the regulation. It's called a pre-verification. We give them a green light, and then they can go to the Ministry of Trade to get with their application basically. So on many occasions actually I asked why are you applying a binary compensation plan, and I've never received an answer. I it says well everybody's doing it, it's a trend, so it should be it's apparently a lot of companies do it, so that's not an answer. So um, uh, if we talk about compensation plan, you really need to understand or have a clear purpose with the compensation plan. Not just because another company is doing a binary plan, I'll do also a binary plan. So um, yeah, just as an additional point, you got to be clear on what you want to do. And if you're not
Okay, so
clear, seek some help in getting some clarity. But I think at the end of the day, it's the company that has to make a decision. They should make an informed decision.
yeah, and not just be copying someone else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they got to have their own
Well,
identity, their own purpose.
And I tell our clients this as well. I say to them, look, and this is a true story. In 1 week, we had a company come to us to say to us, please, they want to get started, and they gave us a compensation plan from another company. And they said, we want to use this compensation plan. In the same week, the company whose compensation plan they were copying came to us and said, our compensation plan is a complete disaster. We want you to help us to redesign the compensation plan. So these people were copying the compensation plan of a company who was absolutely, their compensation plan was a complete disaster. And the people who were doing the copying didn't understand the implications of the compensation plan at all. So I say to people that they need to seek out people like yourself, Koen, who've got experience in designing compensation plans, to work through it, to come up with a compensation plan that works for their business, for their product, for their target market. And they cannot copy somebody else's. It's a disaster.
No, indeed. There are a number of templates available,
Sure.
and then you can choose from the template, but then build, adjust it, customize it for your company, for your portfolio, for your goals, for your mission and vision. Everything has to be aligned.
I agree with you. Now, when I come and I want to do business in Indonesia, do I have to register a company in Indonesia? Is that a prerequisite?
Yeah. You have to set up. You have to incorporate your company first, and then you have to register your products at the equivalent of FDA. It's a BPOM. And then you have to apply for a direct selling license. So the process is quite lengthy. It's not an overnight thing.
Okay, and then can I, as a foreigner, own that company outright, or do I have to have local
Yes.
representation at the?
No. So for the direct selling companies, you can 100% be foreign owned.
And is it difficult to set up your bank accounts? Do you have to have offices?
No problem at all. No problem at all. It's the financial infrastructure is very advanced here. So and there is no restriction on overseas transfers. No restriction on currency exchange. So it's
Very
good to
powerful.
go. I mean, it's
Wow.
yeah. There's no restrictions. So there is going to be a minimum capital requirement for a foreign-owned company, and that is the equivalent of around, depending on exchange rate, is roughly $650,000, of which 20% has to be in cash, and the 80% can be a loan by the shareholders.
Okay, and then in terms of getting payment, are there payment gateways? How do the folks in Indonesia normally pay? Is it a cash-based society, or is credit card widely
Yes, well,
used?
cash based in the sense, yeah, debit card is a very common, very common. So it's cashless basically.
100%. So I could.
Yeah. I mean, not 100%, but within the industry, it's almost 100% cashless. Uh, online ordering, home delivery, it's all there. You can pay by transfer. You can pay by credit card, debit card. Master and Visa are the most common, plus some local banks.
Okay, and then outside
Very
of
easy.
Indonesia, places like the Philippines, Malaysia, do you have any dealings in those areas, or are you specifically in Indonesia?
No, I do specifically Indonesia. I have some contacts, my ex colleagues of Amway that also have already retired. They may be of help. Actually, one avenue which I recommend all that want to come to Indonesia is to contact the local direct selling association.
And do you have an email or URL
Indonesian.
for them? What is the Indonesian DSA?
It's APLI
Yeah.
dot 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 org dot id or dot or dot id. I'm so used to it that I don't. So Alpha Portugal London India .or.id.
Is it OR, not ORG?
Yeah, OR.
.IB. India Bravo.
No, ID in from Indonesia, India Delta.
ID. Okay, got it. India Delta. Fantastic. Well, Koen, that was really an exceptional conversation. I loved it. Thank you so very, very much for joining me. It was like really a pleasure
It was my
to chat with you.
pleasure. Yeah.
I've-
Anyone that has an interest to explore, yeah, send me a note, email or a WhatsApp.
Well, let's get that out there again. Let's get your
welcome.
details. So let's start with your URL. What is your URL?
It's at .or.id.
So it's India Delta Sierra Alpha
Alpha, yes.
dot
OR
Oscar Romeo
dot ID.
dot India Delta. Fantastic. And your number, I've got it, is +62, which is for Indonesia, 816 968 764.
Yes. Exactly.
And then your email address is Kilo Victor Echo Romeo Hotel Echo Yankee Echo November dot India Delta Sierra Alpha at what
Gmail.
was it? At gmail.com.
Gmail.
That's it. Gmail, that's it. .com. Excellent. So anybody who wants to get started in Indonesia, even if they're launching in Indonesia, there might be an Indonesian company that's listening to this today. You're the man to get hold of, and you'll be able to direct them and steer them in the way to go.
Anytime.
Fantastic. Well, Koen, thank you very much. That was really cool. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person because I will be coming to Indonesia, and when I come, I will definitely be looking you up, and we'll go for a beer and have a chat.
Looking forward to that.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Richard. Bye-bye.
Awesome.